Martha Karua said that the BBI initiative has been illegitimate and unconstitutional from day one, from when it began. So the former Justice Minister, who's part of this lobby group and the chair, accused the president of fighting the judiciary, and this is after it annulled the presidential win in 2017. And again, also part of what is coming up is that despite the fact that the president being on the record that he is not interested in clinging to power, Karua also says that the crisis at the top arises mainly since incumbents don't want to hand over power. And again, this article just well stipulates some of the reasons why they think, they'll be taking a no stand on this BBI bill. And again, also part of it is that they want now to go to the grassroots, which is to Kenyans, and tell them the reason as to why they should not accept the constitutional amendment bill, which now looks like it's all systems go for this particular bill.
Still keeping up that beat, Kevin Washira, who was at the bicameral parliament, filed a report that indicates that Parliament will be conducting a public participation exercise of the contents of the BBI Constitution Amendment Bill. And this comes after Uasin Gishu County Assembly resolved to abstain from voting for the bill. Here are the details.
Is guided under Article 255 and 257. This is
Uasin Gishu County Assembly becomes the first county assembly to abstain from taking a decision on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. MCAs, in opting to abstain, say the final decision lies in the hands of the people of Kenya.
This document is said, my people say no, but I want to support the committee reports that we abstain. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
This comes as the Building Bridges Initiative constitutional bill is set to be subjected to a public participation in a joint committee sitting of the bicameral parliament. The National Assembly Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and Senate Legal Affairs Committee say they will hold a meeting on Wednesday to deliberate on the logistics before embarking on a joint public participation drive.
Mark you, these are special circumstances. The bill also is a special bill. I don't think we have had one like this before, because this one is by popular, not parliamentary, popular initiative. And under Article 257, there are certain parameters that go with the attendant to the bill, right? So it uses the phrase without delay. And in law, without delay means, unless there is any impediment, the bill should swim and go through seamless without any delay at all.
They plan to give priority to those with a stake in the document before it is opened up to Kenyans for their submission. As per the law, the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020 cannot be amended by Parliament.
The public participation, we have agreed, will commence on Thursday of this week. But as to whether we will do a more detailed public hearing than what is envisaged on Thursday will be decided by the joint sittings of the two committees of National Assembly and the Senate.
Senate Legal Affairs Committee Chairperson Okongo Mogeni rubbished claims that Parliament was considering a different bill from the one passed by the county assemblies. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Okay, I'm just going through this particular header here. Still conversations revolving around BBI. You can always grab a copy of the Daily Nation, get to read the different topics and articles that have been written here. And there's this particular piece that has been captioned that Uhuru is using BBI to extend stay in power. And these are the words of Martha Karua, NARC Kenya leader. BBI conversations still continue. Uasin Gishu ward reps take the middle path on BBI bill. Again, you can get to read these different articles in regards to the BBI. Now let's change this conversation and go to this particular story, which I believe is in all the dailies in regards to the late Tekra, who, according to an inquest that was happening, new details did emerge that she had been sending a lot of money to her boyfriend, that is Omar Lali. It has emerged that This is according to Tekra's mother, who's narrated how her daughter transferred more than 2 million Kenya shillings to Lali's account in a span of 8 months. She further on went to give examples at some transactions that her daughter did make, referring to some bank statements, saying that there's a time she transferred 150K to Mr. Lali's account, and this was on the 19th of August 2019. Then the following day, she transferred another 100K on both the next day and also in October and November of 2018, or 2019 rather. Then on the 13th of November, she also transferred another 200,000 to Mr. Lali's account, followed by another 100,000 on the 10th of December. There's another 60,000 transaction, another 80,000 transaction, another 400,000 transaction that was done on the 30th of December. Now, according to Mrs. Karanja, she said that this is not the only strange part, because it also got to a time where their daughter told them to be sending her money through Lali's M-Pesa number, which she found to be very strange. And she further on went to say that it's very it's not proper for a lady to be taking care of a 50-year-old man and even paying his bills. She was quoted saying it should be the other way around. And this is when she was addressing senior resident magistrate, that is Martha Nanzushi. She went on to say that in her life she never sent or transferred money to anyone like she did for Omar, adding that they compiled all the records from her bank and M-Pesa statements and described her daughter as a hardworking and bright woman before her life was cut short. I don't know what your dailies have to say in regards to this particular piece, because here it goes on to give the actual figures, so many other transactions that she did make, and especially using M-Pesa. The fact that Lali's phone number is what was being used for her family to send her money: 10,000, 20,000, 60,000, 105,000, 40,000, 45,000. All that has been listed here, and this is information that was being given by the late Tekra's mom.
Well, that it's supposed to be the other way around, the man to take care of the woman. Well, I think this is a conversation we can have tomorrow as we're looking at those trending topics there. You know, that's a mother who is seeking for justice for her daughter there, her slain daughter there. You know, this is an inquest that, if you looked at Tabitha Karanja in 2020, you know, early 2020, or even in the past years, 2019, 2018, there was a lot of talk at how she had changed in her appearance. She didn't look as, you know, the business lady we have seen over the years. And we were having this conversation, Jane and Doreen, and some of the women who were looking at her photo were saying, when you lose a child, no one wants to lose a child, especially if you have not made, you know, amends. You know, the regret, the fact that you could not do anything for your daughter. Maybe it's eating her away. There's so much that has been said after that photo was made public, what was happening during that inquest. We'll continue following up any developments in regard to that particular matter. Remember, Tabitha Karanja of Keroshe Breweries is one of those astute business ladies who has made history. If you go back into the history of brewery, you know, we had Castle here, but they had to exit the market. Now we have the EABL. Then there was a local brewer, Fai Amarios, yes? And his packaging actually had someone with chains, you know, breaking the chains. I don't know if, okay. Okay, now this clearly shows who is older here, how old we are in studio. But I'm just saying there was Fire Mario, and he had quite the thing there. There was quite a tussle, but Tabitha came up on top. So there's so much that has been said about Keroche Industries. You can also find this on our website. We have detailed reports on, you know, Keroche Industries, where it began, where it is, and what is going on. We also we'll have an update in regard to this particular inquest. And I'd want to take you back to matters politics, BBI and 2022 matrix. Now, according to Gladys Mungai, who prepared this report, she says that the symbolic handshake would provide fodder for the political class, with some capitalizing on the political calm to strategize for the 2022 general election. The report further says While one school of thought perceive it as a well-orchestrated ploy to edge out some politicians, others hail it for birthing amendments to the Constitution that, if implemented, as envisaged, it will end the cycle of violence every electioneering period. Gladys Mungai looks at views from the two schools of thought and its implications ahead of the 2022 polls. Here's a report.
The Building Bridges Initiative reform agenda triggered political waves within the Jubilee Party, threatening to split the party into two.
Aelezee wa Kenya salamu ya Raila Odinga ilikuwa inaleta faida gani? Handshake sijui ile, sijui tunataka tushike huyu, sijui tunataka tufuguse huyu kwa sababu tunatafuta William Ruto. Mimi nataka niwaambie kinagaubaga ya kwamba Wakenya sio wajinga na sisi kama viongozi wa Bondo la Ufa tumechoka.
A section of the membership viewed it as a plot to meddle with the 2022 succession politics through constitutional amendments.
Ya kama ni katiba ya sasa ama ni katiba ambayo itakuja, mimi niko tayari kuhakikisha ya kwamba the will of the people of Kenya must be respected.
Aina hapo imepangwa. Ati hao ndio serikali ya kesho. Na wale anawaita ni yule mtu tulishinda. Me, I want to declare here in Kinamba, Raila Odinga, you are not going to decide who are the leaders of our region.
Rivers of Babylon, where we sat down. However, those in support of the changes to the constitution and the newfound friendship between opposition and government felt it was the answer to the winner-takes-it-all political contest witnessed in the country every election cycle.
Hii BBI si mlango ambao Raila anatumia mlango ya dirisha atiangie na State House. Hapana. Raila akitaka kwenda kwa State House, wananchi watampeleka yeye.
Mimi nikiwa Mkalenjin naambia nyinyi hamjaonja hii kiti ya urais. Lakini hii BBI mnaweza kuonja mkiingia ndani.
The political jostling will temporarily be quelled as President Uhuru Kenyatta told Jubilee legislators attending a parliamentary caucus at State House that he'll pass the baton to an heir who support his legacy, urging them to focus on matters development.
Kiwa wewe uko kwa hiyo for 2 terms, then that is why 148 says you can't run again. Najim, I want an advisory opinion. Na tutaenda mpaka Supreme Court. Sisi hatucheki na watu.
Wale ambao wanaongea hiyo wanaongea yao. Yangu mimi najua tuko na chama yetu, tutakuwa na mpango yetu uko mbele.
Weeks later, a joint statement following a meeting with 7 key party leaders at State House, read by KANU chairperson Gideon Moi, would reawaken the conversation on the 2022 political matrix.
County assemblies have considered the bill.
There's a cabal inside government who are busy trying to chart the way how Kenya will be ruled in 2022.
You should not mix the handshake and 2022. These are separate and distinct.
Political analysts reading into the 2022 undertones say, unlike President Mwai Kibaki, who kept off the transition politics, President Uhuru Kenyatta was keen on leaving a mark as the president who united the country for generations to come.
Ruto is doing is what Raila has always done, thinking that you will get the presidency on the streets from the whole. It has never worked, and it will not work.
The die has since been cast, and the road to the referendum seems to be a sure bet. What remains to be seen is the political alignments and realignments, with politics said to be a game where there's no permanent friends or enemies. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Now that BBI and 2022 political matrix caps in the headlines this morning. Remember, further details, you can get them, are available actually on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Up next, we're going to be talking about sexual reproductive health among the young people, or rather what we want to term as the youth in Kenya. Do not go away.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Your dream of a united India will be fulfilled very soon.
This is a lie, Father.
The truth is in front of everybody. And the truth is that you pushed Sushil. Wasn't it enough for you to take away his rights, that now you want to kill him as well? How have we wronged you, Ashok?
Brother?
On the next episode.
Miradi ya utoaji maji safi kote nchini ni muhimu katika kuimarisha maisha na mapato ya Wakenya. Mradi wa bwawa la Thwake ni mojawapo ya miradi iliyoanzishwa chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwa manufaa ya wananchi. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
hiyo maji mahali tunapata kwa kwenda hiyo kilomita, saa ingine tunakutana na hii mnyama inakaa kwa maji, crocodile.
Katika project ya Thwake tunazo tunnel mbili. Wakati ujenzi, tunnel hizi zitatumika kubadilisha mkondo wa mto.
Hiyo stima itasaidia kwa sababu kama stima itatoka hapa kwa wingi, hakuna mahali patakuwa hapana stima.
Good morning. You're still watching Good Morning Kenya, and I'm Regina Manyara. So we're going to be talking about matters of sexual and reproductive health rights and promoting this among young people. Being in Africa, Kenya is not absolved from, culture and tradition, where matters of sex are considered taboo. But going back to a report that was made public as Kenya joined ranks with the rest of the globe in marking the International Women's Day, it indicated that 1 out of every 5 teen girls, one of them is pregnant. Such are the statistics that need to have that conversation. Joining me on set this morning is Kenneth Okwaro, who is Executive Director of African African Center for People, Institutions and Society. Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you
How
for
are you?
making time.
Thank you.
So there we are. Those are the statistics. So why then the need? How then do we go about this? Actually, there is a need to have that conversation. But how do we go about, promoting, sexual reproductive health rights among young people? Where do we start?
Well, thank you. In my view, I think we need to begin from understanding what the need is. And to put this into context, the population we're talking about is the guys between 18 and 35 or 34, so to speak, what we're calling the youth. Most of them will probably are getting out of school. They are 40% of our country. That's a lot of millions of people. And then you hear that in Africa, by the time a young person is 19, 73% of them who are male have already had sex. 53% who are female have already had sex. So use that and calculate the number with the 40 million I was talking about. You can see the number of people who are fertile, the number of people who, by their behaviors and by the things they do, are predisposed to, doing or conducting themselves in a manner that can lead to, for example, those pregnancies that you're talking about. So that is what you're talking about. There's a huge need that we need to address. But we don't do this because we want to tame the behaviors of young people, or we want to make them not do particular things, but because we recognize that these are the young people who we have always been saying that they are the guys who are going to lead our country in the years to come. They are the ones who have been saying they are the guys who are supposed to innovate and supposed to, build our economy. So we are doing this to keep them healthy. We are doing this, for example, if you're talking about young women, now that yesterday, on the back of International Women's Day, we need to give young women in this country the commodities and services and information they require. For example, to keep themselves in school, and when they leave school, to be able to plan their careers. And when they plan their careers, to see how many years do I want to work, when do I want to get a family, when do I want to get a baby, and those things. But when we don't get these services, that information out there, then we result, leave alone the girls who get pregnant when they're in school, the ones who are out of school but didn't want to get pregnant or shouldn't get pregnant by the time they do. And therefore their lives are disrupted. Some of the beautiful things that they would do for our country and for themselves don't get done. So we are saying the need is huge. It's not just the fact that there is culture, there are these things that we have been considering taboo, but we have to look at them from a point of view of economic development for our country.
Economic development.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing borders on a controversial proposal, and this is the Sexual Reproductive Health Bill that is currently in Parliament. And there's been a lot of controversy in regard to that particular proposal. From where you sit, what do you think? Is this a step in the right direction to just, ensure that we maximize our youth's potential?
I think my view is that we need to look at these things from a preventive health perspective. Looking at what would happen if we don't do them. A lot of things happen in our country. You hear there are health cases that are resulting from young women being pregnant, or they are facing reproductive health challenges that we have to deal with at the Kenyatta National Hospital, at the dispensaries, or wherever they are, the facilities they are at. Those things happen because we have not provided the information, we have not provided the services and the commodities that would prevent them from happening. So to answer your question, I think the best approach is to look at it from helping young people access the services, commodities, and products, so that we don't get to deal with them. So we are not curing the effects of, complications when very young women get, pregnant. Things like that, rather than taking the conversation to the controversies.
Now, critics have come on board and said that our children are too young. Yes, we know the statistics indicate that, children at the age of 15, actually from 13 to 15, are actually already sexually active. Then the question is, what is the appropriate age to start having these conversations? What do you think is the appropriate age?
Well, there's been a broad conversation in our country, consulting parents, consulting teachers, consulting church, and everyone else. And people up to this point are still not agreeing on what is the appropriate.
We're not agreeing on the appropriate age, and there is a factor: who should be the one relaying this information.
And who should be deciding that now my child has reached the age where we should begin to teach them these things. So that conversation, in my view, we need to be more open about it. And it's a conversation we can have with our country, with the different sectors, multiple stakeholders, to one day arrive at the best for our country. And I wouldn't expect that one sector, parents or teachers or private sector, would say that we are the ones who decide this. So to answer that question, I think it's a conversation that needs to go on until the point where everyone agrees that this is what we need to do. But before we get there, there are people who we consider adults, who are from the age I was talking about, from 18 to 35. And that age group is huge. And they are the dividends. They are the people who I think, at this point, even before we decide how to talk about age-appropriate sexuality education in school.
For the younger ones.
Yes. Can we focus on these guys? Because in 10 years, those guys will be the guys sitting here. Those guys will be the guys who are in companies and rolling out our economy. So if we don't address the matter now for them, we will reach a point where we have already lost that dividend. Even, let's say, in a decade, we have now agreed that this is the age where we begin to teach children about sexuality and reproductive health. But then how about these guys? So to me, there's an immediate need for 18 to 35 to be talked to.
Now, with this age bracket, 18 to 35, these are what we call the youth. These are people who've been termed as Generation X, Y, Z. We are not patient, we are go-getters and such. Now, let's divide this demographic in terms of gender. When it comes to contraception, it has been an assumption that the person who should take the lead role as far as contraception is concerned is the woman. But we all know the woman does not conceive alone. How are we going now, or how are you as an institution working at now bringing the men on board in this demographic to walk this talk?
This is 2021. We were just saying yesterday was the International Women's Day. We cannot be having the conversation today saying contraception should be the responsibility of women. It shouldn't be.
On ground.
Yeah, and I was coming.
How many men are even aware that their women or their girlfriends and such are on contraception? Yeah?
I was going to be the second part of my statement. Let us bring ourselves to the point where we accept that it is 2021 and the conversation cannot be like that. So there are organizations like one of my favorites called Form Nigani. They work with young people to give them information, to educate them and to create movements about how, for example, we can talk to young men to see what their role is in contraception, to reduce the burden on women, for example, to be the ones who have to take the burden of contraception. Some easy steps like getting young men who are young adults to use, for example, one of the methods for contraception called using condoms. How can young men be got into the conversation to understand that it's also their responsibility to make sure that when they are with whoever it is, they also take the responsibility for making sure that they plan what they do and they know the implications of what happens and how they can protect themselves and they can prevent some of those implications. Yeah.
And how's the uptake? How's the reception? Because on the other end, we also have various forms of contraception where women are still holding back. You know, if we were to conduct a survey, how many women actually go out there and buy the condoms as such?
Right.
That is still something that we somewhat see it as a preserve of the men.
There's a metric that is used in this when you're talking about contraception called unmet need. In our country, we still have about 18%. That is generally, it is quite huge, meaning there is a proportion, there's a gap that is going on without access to this that we need to address. But there are so many things that lead to this that we can deal with, which is what this conversation should focus a lot more on. How do we address that unmet need? And we can begin, for example, by talking about, you know, right now, if you look at the contraceptive methods that most of the young people utilize, young men and also young women, you'll find that most of them use something like the e-pills, which are very temporary ones.
Yes.
And
the
condoms.
morning after.
Yeah, and those are like just about about 20 to 30% of the methods of contraception that they need to use. But why is this the case? If, say, I'm those woke gentlemen or men who want to participate in contraceptives with the person I am with, the lady or the woman I am with, where do I access these things? So I need to go to the next dispensary or the next facility. And there are issues, for example, with the supplies of commodities, which is a thing. There are also issues with affordability. We are saying these are the young people who have no jobs. They have no work. So where do they get this money to go and buy these things? We are also saying that the supply chains for these things have a problem. There's been a case with KEMSA about how they supply almost all health commodities, including the other things, which needs to be addressed, so that there are areas in this country where there are stockouts. So imagine there's this young man or there's this young man and this young woman who have decided we understand these things and we want to use some methods of contraception. They are somewhere in Migori or they are somewhere in Mandera, but the supply is not good. So one day they go, they're fine. One day they go, they don't find. It affects what we call their health-seeking behavior. If I like something and I usually go and get it, and there are times I don't get it, it disrupts my behavior. So I'll drop back to doing things the way I'm not supposed to be doing. That's another thing that needs to be addressed. So the issue of the supply chain. Yeah, yes.
Then also the issue of affordability. We've been seeing that government has been running a series of projects where it makes some forms of contraceptives, available to the masses. Yeah. But we have off-grid areas, like a place like Garissa, where we had a feature where the young men there took to washing the condoms and reuse and such. So then as a private sector player then, how do we bridge the gap that, government clearly can't satisfy the whole masses, and what role does private sector play in ensuring accessibility and affordability of the services?
Right, to be honest, the health function in almost every country in the world requires different hands, different sectors. You can almost not say that it's a responsibility of government. Well, yes. The Constitution says it's our right to health, and therefore government needs to, spend and provide. Yes. But the reality is the otherwise. So we need different stakeholders to participate in this. And I think one of our country is one of the countries that have been trying to do this. We have got to be fair to our government, though a lot more needs to be done, because there is need to get both the national government and the county governments to spend on this. There is need to get private sector. And I say private sector because private sector rely on people's labor. And people's labor is only productive when those guys are safe, those guys are healthy, those guys are not struggling with maternal health issues. And so there's an interest for private sector to see what they can do. For example, these issues about making sure that the supply chains are better. How do we get Coca-Cola to Mandera and Guinness to Mandera, but we can't get condoms there?
Good question. It's the same question we were asking. How do we get the ballot box to all those counties, but we still can't get sanitary towels down there?
Exactly.
Now, that brings in the issue of behavior change. We need to be open to having these conversations and change our mannerisms. But then, for people, change cannot come from without. It has to come from within. So how are we going about it? How are we engaging our youth, to accept that this is the reality? But if we are to secure a future, you guys need to step up. How's that? How do we go about that?
You can't say that it's a responsibility of one person. It begins from, they say society begins from the family. So at home there is a responsibility for parents that we're living in the 21st century. The way our parents were raised, where you never could talk about these things, we cannot say that that's the way we raise children today. And that's why you hear of children doing all manner of things in this town that you cannot imagine, because there are parents who have blocked that off their minds, that my kid cannot be doing that, but they're doing that. So it can be, one of the places that it can begin is there. But we also have religious installations, whether it's church or it's the mosque, where they also teach based on their faith, and scriptures or the Quran or whatever you're going to use in your faith. The beauty of them is almost all of them have something that can support whoever is trying to engage young people to do this. But my most favorite is what we call youth-friendly services.
Youth-friendly services.
Yeah, where you have a place where young people like to go. If it's dance, they go there and dance, but you have a session where we talk about these things and get them to understand these things. Some of them are anchored at hospitals or hospital facilities. Some of them are anchored in education facilities. And government needs to invest more on such ones, because those are the ones young people like. They are not coming there necessarily to talk about contraception.
Meet them at their point of view.
Yeah, if they're going for Odi dance, in the middle of Odi dance, we have some.
Odi dance, I'm just out of that bracket, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. In the middle of that, there is some bit of information that we provide. Yeah. And we've seen programs where they even go a step further, that they also have services and they also have commodities. I used to run a program where we were working on HIV/AIDS testing, and people never used to like testing then. It was like a decade or so ago. So we'd do these splash events where there are musicians who come and people dance. The bulk of it, there are tents where you can sneak in and test yourself and come back. So getting these services where, like you're saying, meeting people at their point. So they've come to have fun. It's lit and all those terms we use.
Yeah, it is lit.
But in the process of it weathering, there are services and there are commodities, and they're living with information and things they can utilize when they leave. Yeah.
So you mentioned a program that you guys are running. Maybe you can now, just make us understand, how do we get to this information? How do we get how do our viewers become part of that particular campaign? Primary target, just tell us more.
Okay, so I said it's called Form Nigani.
Form Nigani.
Yes. So it's a program that's trying to engage young people, but from the understanding that the issue of contraception is important to secure the youth dividend for the future. And therefore, young people are trying to talk to their government, young people are trying to talk to their parents, trying to talk to their society, to invest in helping them with how to secure their future, and in this particular instance, on contraception. You can go on social media and use the hashtag FormNigani. On Twitter, you'll find it. On Facebook, you'll find it. Also on Twitter, you can use at FormNigani. You'll find it as well. And we can engage online, and you'll find a lot of information and materials there about how this program has been running. We have done a lot of research work to inform this. We did a survey in 2019 that informed what we are talking about. Then just after, when COVID-19 happened, because we were concerned that COVID-19 was rolling back some of those gains, for example, that government had put in place to ensure that young people or government spends on these things. A lot of focus went into COVID-19. Those COVID restrictions made sure that young people could not access some of these services. And therefore, we did a report. And that report was just bringing to light those issues about how the pandemic must not roll back gains. It must not also limit what we do to support young people regarding their sexual reproductive health. So if you go online, you can find these reports we've written. We've done surveys with young people across the country. Yeah.
So, Mr. Kenneth, do you have a website? Do you have a website that we can all log into and get all these details? Maybe you can share it with us.
Yes, I think if you go online and just type www.formnigani.com, you'll find it.
We'll get that.
Yes.
So yeah, Form Nigani is available on social media platforms. You can get it there. Hashtag Form Nigani, www.formnigani, and this does not just target, people who consider themselves too old, that is above 35, because we know, as it stands, youth is 18 to 35. Well, it's open for everybody at a time when we're talking about behavior change. Now, before I let you go, sir, we have had changing trends. What would you say are the emerging trends in as far as, contraception is concerned? Because there was a topic and it really drew a lot of debate. The uptake of issues of vasectomy and such, especially, within the family setup. We've had battles here and there. This child is not mine, I'd taken a vasectomy. What can you say about that? Are we evolving in that direction? New age?
I think it's on the background of one, globalization, and also the information age where we can get these things like you're reading them and I'm reading them from where you are. So people have more knowledge about these things. Those things we are calling wokeness.
Oh, we woke.
Yes, so people are getting more information about the alternatives, the temporary methods, the more longer term methods, their pros and cons, and they are opening people's eyes to what they can do. I wouldn't tell you here that I have the statistics about the new emerging trends. I mean, how we are moving to which ones. But what I can tell you is, even amongst young people, or even amongst these people we are saying at the age that is not youth
within
right now,
the bracket, yeah.
People are reading and people are watching telly and people are seeing.
So we are getting woke.
Yeah, and the good thing is that organizations that are working towards providing the services that you read about.
Now, if we are woke as a society at that point, and I want to be the devil's advocate in this conversation, and represent the people who are still reserved, conservatives, who are saying the more we're talking about sexual reproductive health, the more our children are getting lost. And I'm using getting lost. But as you ponder on that, we take a small breather. We'll be back to just find out, are we woke enough? And does it affect what we do?
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione, si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If I wasn't here, it was because you didn't let me know, huh?
Come on, stop it, please. I was calling you and you never picked up any of my calls. And I sent you 1,000 messages telling you what happened.
1,000 messages?
1,000
I had a call 20 minutes ago, Amaya, and I'm here.
Stop lying. Don't talk to your daughter like that, Cipriano.
I talk to her as I want, period.
Well, you can yell at me all you want, but you won't make me quit from El Paraiso.
That is if he survives the operation, yes.
Might he die in the operation?
Unfortunately, yes, madam. Why didn't you tell me that your husband works in Nescafe? And besides that, he works very closely with my brother Cesar.
On the next episode.
Miradi ya utoaji maji safi kote nchini ni muhimu katika kuimarisha maisha na mapato ya Wakenya. Mradi wa bwawa la Thwake ni mojawapo ya miradi iliyoanzishwa chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwa manufaa ya wananchi. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254.
Hiyo maji mahali tunapata kwa kwenda hiyo kilomita, saa ingine tunakutana na hii mnyama inakaa kwa maji, crocodile.
Katika project ya Thwake tunazo tunnel mbili. Wakati ujenzi, tunnel hizi zitatumika kubadilisha mkondo wa mto.
Hiyo stima itasaidia kwa sababu kama stima itatoka hapa kwa wingi, hakuna mahali patakuwa hapana stima.
Next on.
Kwa gari mejani na wewe una gari yako, una hata baskeli unaanza complain. Songa huko, kalia huyo. Kuja.
Yaani nimekuandika wewe, nimekupa wewe lift unacha watu wote wale.
Wewe kwenda gari gani hii? Kwanza mkebe.
Sasa nikuulize madhe,
Uliza.
kama una gari, si watu wenye wako na gari wa park?
Hii ni gari unanambia? Unanambia habari ya mkebe?
Mkebe hapa.
Na benzi itaitwa nini?
Toka huko. Wacha kwanza. Unampiga nini msuko wangu?
Anakalia gari yangu kwa nini? Kwa nini anakalia gari yangu? Niongea na mdomo kwa nini? Wewe.
Mama twende achana na huyu mzee.
Nyinyi ambao mna tabia kama hizo, huo ni ungwana kweli?
Orlando Pirates of South are not taking any chances when they travel to two-time CAF Champions League winners ES Satif of Algeria in the CAF Confederations Cup, where they were runners-up in 2015.
And it's Songa! And it's goal number 2 for Justin Songa!
Watch them live this Wednesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as they launch their attack in the group stage. On your true sports partner.
Sexual and reproductive health rights among young people. By the studio is Kenneth Okoro, who's Executive Director of African Center for People, Institutions and Society. So before we took a break,
the question of the more we are woke, the more we access this contraceptive, the more we access this information from some quarters. And I'm playing the devil's advocate here. They say the more we are woke, the more we go rogue in as far as our sexual relations are concerned. From where you sit, is there a correlation to that?
I like to look at it this way. Someone can argue that the more information you expose someone with, the more they are likely to want to know more about it or to do the things that relate to the information that you provide to them, which is not necessarily an outlandish argument. But the way I see it is that regarding the issue of contraception and overall reproductive health information for young people, is that we are already, as when we began, I told you about the age bracket that I'm talking about, between around 15 and 35, where by 19, 73% of males have already had their first sexual debut, and females 53%. What I'm trying to say is it's going on, and there is evidence to support that. And we are trying to look at it from the perspective that whilst we have evidence that young people are actually engaging in sexual practices, what can we do about it to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they're healthy, to make sure that their future is assured? Is to provide them with the information that is age appropriate, that is useful for them at the moment where they are, provide them with commodities that they need at that point, and which is the conversation that we need to have, rather than say that we should not have the conversation at all. Because if we say that, we are leaving the other facts and the information that exists that says that young people, even earlier than 15 that I'm talking about, they're already involved in sexual practices that endanger their lives, that endanger their futures, that make their livelihoods in the future not certain.
There you've had it. That is Kenneth Okoro, Executive Director of African Center for People, Institutions and Society, saying it's a high time we had those conversations, age-appropriate conversations, useful for the target market. We take a breather when we come talking about matters business.
fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If I wasn't here, it was because you didn't let me know, huh?
Come on, stop it, please. I was calling you and you never picked up any of my calls. And I sent you 1,000 messages telling you what happened.
1,000
Yes,
messages?
1,000
I had a call
messages.
20 minutes ago, Amaya, and I'm here.
Stop lying. Don't talk to your daughter like that, Cipriano.
I talk to her as I want, period.
Well, you can yell at me all you want, but you won't make me quit from El Paraiso.
That is if he survives the operation, yes.
Might he die in the operation?
Unfortunately, yes, madam. Why didn't you tell me that your husband works in Nescafe, and besides that, he works very closely with my brother Cesar?
On the next episode.
Miradi ya utoaji maji safi kote nchini ni muhimu katika kuimarisha maisha na mapato ya Wakenya. Mradi wa bwawa la Thwake ni mojawapo ya miradi iliyoanzishwa chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwa manufaa ya wananchi. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254.
Hiyo maji mahali tunapata kwa kwenda hiyo kilomita, saa ingine tunakutana na hii mnyama inakaa kwa maji, crocodile.
Katika project ya Thwake tunazo tunnel mbili. Wakati ujenzi, tunnel hizi zitatumika kubadilisha mkondo wa mto.
Hiyo stima itasaidia kwa sababu kama stima itatoka hapa kwa wingi, hakuna mahali patakuwa hapana stima.
Next on.
Ingia. Kwa gari imejaa nini na wewe una gari yako, una hata baskeli unaanza complain. Songa huko, kalia huyo. Kuja.
Yaani nimekuandika wewe, wewe lift unacha watu wote wale.
Wewe kwenda gari gani hii? Kwanza mkebe.
Sasa nikuulize madhe,
Uliza.
kama una gari, si watu wenye wako na gari wa park.
Hii ni gari unanambia? Unanambia habari ya mkebe?
Mkebe hapana.
Na penzi itaitwa nini?
Toka huko.
Tuacha kwanza. Unampiga nini msuko wangu?
Anakalia gari yangu kwa nini? Kwa nini anakalia gari yangu? Niongee na mdomo kwa nini? Wewe.
Mwa twende achana na huyu mzee.
Nyinyi ambao mna tabia kama hizo, huo ni ungwana kweli?
Orlando Pirates of South are not taking any chances when they travel to two-time CAF Champions League winners ES Satif of Algeria in the CAF Confederations Cup, where they were runners-up in 2015.
And it's Songa! And it's goal number 2 for Justin Songa!
Watch them live this Wednesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as they launch their attack in the group stage.
On your true sports partner.
All right, welcome back. Glad you are still with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. In case you're joining us, I'm Jane Wambui. As always, glad to have you with us. Remember, I will be going through what is happening on our socials. Check in using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya, tag at KBC Channel 1, at Jane Wambui, at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, and we'll be getting to your feed in a bit. And just to appreciate William Mamburi always with us as we start the program. Always, anasema, always connecting us to the world, information about what is happening around us. Good morning from Watamu. Thank you so much for being with us. Tunakupenda pia. Big shout out going out to Kenya Students in Diaspora Foundation. I see Professor Gerono Phyllis retweeting our feeds. Matenzawa tuned in. Collins Mukamba, thank you so much for being with us this far. Imbogoya Varuya, I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for checking in. Keep talking to us. Let us know where you're watching us from. So we want to continue with the day's conversation. Before we get to that business discussion that Regina had promised you, let's first talk a bit about writing. And to help us with this conversation this morning in studio, we have with us Amal Mohammed Abdikadir, who is a young author. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Karibu sana. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Are you on social media?
Yes.
How can guys find you?
Okay, my Instagram is Amal Abdikadir 2176. My Facebook, Amal Mohammed Abdi. And my Twitter, Amal Abdikadir 65.
All right, so you can check her out, you can talk to her on the socials. But let's just get to understand your writing journey. You are pretty young, but how far back does your writing journey go? Ulianza mwaka gani?
I started in the year 2014 when I was in class 7. And I have published my first book after 7 years after writing it.
Yeah.
That's 2021.
You wrote it?
When I was in class 7.
No, may published 2021.
Yes.
How has that journey been? You know, discovering that you want to write at a very young age. I mean, who else is in class 7 and is thinking of writing or publishing a book? I mean, that time our priorities are elsewhere. What was that space like for you and ending up in you actually wanting to write?
Okay, it has not been easy, of course. I have had difficult time editing the book, printing it, and eventually launching it, but I didn't know that one day it will give me a platform where I can showcase my talent and capabilities. But it hasn't been easy because, you know, along the way, whatever you are doing, there is criticism and there is doubts, a lot of things. Of course, and one of my major challenges was lack of knowledge. I didn't, in fact, when I wrote the book, I wasn't planning to publish it because I didn't know there was something called publishing. I thought the way the books look like, those are people that write.
That was your perception about writing
so
then?
I wanted so much to improve on my handwriting so that I write like those people. I didn't know about publishing. That was the major challenge for me. And then somewhere in Form 1, that's when I discovered there's something called publishing. A friend of mine told me, and that's when I started looking for a publisher. But finding a publisher based in Nakuru, I'm from Nakuru, it is not an easy.
It was really hard.
Yeah. So I had to, when I finished school, that's 2019, so 2020, when I came to Nairobi and being exposed to this environment, that's when I met a publisher. Yeah.
Now, let's just go back to that space when you're also just trying to learn yourself, learning this craft of writing. How was the support system around you? Because being pretty young and you are going this direction with writing, it's not so many people, it's not a situation so many young people get to go through. So in terms of the support that you were getting in that space and time, how was it?
Okay, I can't say everyone supported me, but there's quite a number of people that supported me, especially my family. You know, family comes first. They supported me, my brothers. They are busy men, but they created time for me to talk to me about my books. They sponsored the publication of my book from printing, editing to launching it. So they are called Abdi Fatah and Abdi Razak, and I'm very grateful to them. And they are friends around me, my classmates. They were supporting me, and not all of them, but someone like, I can mention her, she's called Mary Wanjiku. She supported me a lot. And there are people like the late Professor Henry Olekulet. He was the first editor of my book, and unfortunately he couldn't make to my launching event. And then there is the head of the library in Nakuru County, Madam Purity Kavuri. There is Miss Kihaji, the writer of Reset, and Brother Dean, the writer of the book and Unchained Heart. So those are the people that supported me a lot, apart from my family.
Okay, now just looking at your journey, what would you say has been the most fulfilling part about this writing that you have been doing from such a young age and you are still doing at this point in time?
I think there is certain happiness. You know, when you do something, especially when you work on something, you know, I've told you it has taken me a lot of time. And people, at first, I didn't like the way the journey was, like all those years looking for a publisher. But when you want to do something, quick is the fastest way. But when you want to do something amazing, slowly is the fastest way. So that's why maybe I had taken all that time. But finally, I launched my book. And that's really something to celebrate
and be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, and we actually have her book with us in studio. She'll be telling us a bit about it. But before we get to Deception, you've written a number of other books, and I'd like for you to tell us a bit about the 3 of them. I understand there are 4, but you are comfortable talking about 3 of them. And which Deception was the first book that you wrote?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be finishing up with Deception because it's in line with the conversation that is going on here in our country. But tell us a bit about Shades of Hope. What's the story with that?
Shades of Hope is basically a story that talks about, you know, how your life can be when you are displaced due to inter-community conflict. So it talks about a Somali girl who is displaced and lost her parents, the whole family, due to inter-community conflicts. And she has to travel all the way from like Garissa to Nairobi on foot to come and explore the city, being a street child, and ends up with a good life due to hard work.
Okay. Yeah. Now, the other book is Born to Suffer.
Born to Suffer talks about those kind of parents that they give birth to children. They don't abort, they give birth to children, and then they bring it to your doorstep, and you decide what to do with the baby.
What was the motive behind this particular one, Born to Suffer? What was the message you were looking to send across?
I think there's a day someone told me about a lady who had twins, and she aborted the last minute, but they were still alive. And she had to pour very hot water on them. They were crying so that they can die. She didn't want them to survive. And so when I was told that story, I was in Form 1. So I thought of writing something about it. So I think the stories are close.
Born to Suffer. All right. And now here we have Deception, which is one of the first books that you ever wrote, but you have managed to publish it this year. Deception in itself, when we hear the word deception, already we have our own opinions, but is the story in line with the title itself, or there's a plot twist therein? You know, this takes me back to high school literature.
You know, most of the times the writers, it's said that the title of the book, it's only the writer that can explain.
Yeah.
But for me, when you see the word deception, then you should know the book is about deceit. Yeah, the title and the book are very related.
Okay, so for someone who might not, or rather wants a trailer of what this book is about, in brief, just give us a condensed version of what this book captures with the element of deceit.
And the book is about, let's say, it's about deceit, betrayal, lies, and inappropriate sexual desires. The book, I've narrowed it down to sexual harassment in schools by teachers. So I've written, it's a fiction story. I've written it to educate our generation and the next generation, and to especially the ladies, to inspire them to shy away from drug abuse within or outside the school, to shy away from inappropriate sexual desires, and I hope they learn from it.
You do hope you learn from it, and the fact that you highlighted the issue to do with sexual offenses, especially in the school setup. Now, just looking at that, and somebody might go through this book and question whether our teachers are alive to such concerns, and especially from a young person, when it comes to taking this information to the actual schools and giving an actual reality of what is happening. Is it something that you would like to do as you go out, you know, just driving this book, using it to teach even children in schools and even the teachers? Is it something you're open to?
Yes. I won't shy away from talking about the book. I was in some schools in Isli last week, talking to the girls about the sexual control, and I narrowed it down to this book. I talked to them, and most of them purchased it, and I'm getting good feedback from them. And you know, the fact that I've said sexual harassment in schools by teachers, I don't mean that every pregnant 13-year-old girl is being impregnated by their teachers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something that happens all over, by teachers, by any men. Yeah, so
it's meant to be a tool to drive a conversation that...
Yeah, just to create awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, looking at what COVID-19 did teach us that, you know, sometimes the perpetrators are right next to us. Sometimes the person who is hurting these young girls is somebody who is next to them, somebody who is supposed to protect them. And looking at the school setup, the teacher would be both the protector and perpetrator in some situations. So I do believe it's a very valid conversation that needs to continue thriving. Now, we're also living in a Kenyan space where the reading culture is not as good as one would want it to be. So in terms of encouraging the reading culture here in our country, as a young author, what do you think the solution would be to even just encourage people to be, because such information about even for kids to protect themselves is in a book, but looking at the reading culture, that's a problem in itself.
Okay, the solution, according to me,
what
the solution will be challenge. I'm sure today I've challenged you, right, about writing and everything. So when I challenge you, you also might desire to write a book, but you know, you must read several books for you to write one book.
Yes.
So I think the way young authors are coming up, too much of them, and the way they are challenging the elder people, I think the elders should go back to, first of all, reading before going to writing. Yeah.
It needs to start from way back then to just try and build this reading culture. And I think we all have a long way to go, because I am part of that population that struggles to read a book that is over 200 pages, you know. But again, we have the option of audiobooks. It's a start for those of us who are struggling. But let me come to now the publishing part. You had mentioned that, you know, it hasn't been an easy journey. And let's just start by understanding from your journey. You know, when you talk about publishing, we usually just see the credits there, published by Reset Company. But we don't really understand what it takes for a writer to actually get their book published. Kindly take us through that whole journey from once you are done with scripting and putting it together. How do you get to that publishing point?
Okay, once you are done, for me, I wrote it in a book. You see, when I was in class 7. So there is typing, you need to put it in a soft copy, and then there is editing. So editing is I don't want to say the hardest part of it, but it is. Editing takes a lot of work. You need, like, you have to edit like 7 times.
Yes.
And then go to printing. So if you have a publisher, you can, before printing and everything, you have to design the cover and decide on the synopsis at the back. Then if you have a publisher, you are good to go. If you don't have a publisher, then you start a journey of trying to find one.
All right. And we'll be coming back to look at a few other issues that I find so many publishers and writers get to face when they're in that part of, you know, trying to publish their book in a bit. But we'll be getting to this in a bit, so do stay with us. We will be right back.
fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If I wasn't here, it was because you didn't let me know, huh?
Come on, stop it, please. I was calling you and you never picked up any of my calls. And I sent you 1,000 messages telling you what happened.
1,000
Yes,
messages?
1,000
I had a call
messages.
20 minutes ago, Amaya, and I'm here.
Stop lying. Don't talk to your daughter like that, Cipriano.
I talk to her as I want, period.
Well, you can yell at me all you want, but you won't make me quit from El Paraiso.
That is if he survives the operation, yes.
Might he die in the operation?
Unfortunately, yes, madam. Why didn't you tell me that your husband works in Nescafe? And besides that, he works very closely with my brother Cesar.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii kwa simu yako, bonyeza alama ya nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli.
Unanipigia na reverse call. Unajua ile kitu naweza reverse peke yake. Ni Land Rover nikiendea mawalifu mahali wako. Ndio wakucha wameingia kwa Land Rover chup chup. Lakini wewe kunipigia reverse call. Why are you defrauding the government? No. Look for the airtime and call me. Okay? Ukipiga na reverse call, hata mimi sita reverse. Unasikia? Tusisoeane bwana.
Ukitaka kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza alama ya nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli. Nyota 811 alama ya nyota 962 alama ya reli.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
You are not my mother, neither are you my woman. Sawa sawa.
Yes, Julie umesikia? You are not his mother or his woman, so keep on.
Ati men are supposed to be the head of the family, please.
If these are the leaders of tomorrow, then we actually do.
Hey, come on! This can't be our routine.
I have to tell you something.
Fine, you can tell me when you're seated.
Kinanjui, what have you done?
She's here. Can you help out here?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Orlando Pirates of South are not taking any chances when they travel to two-time CAF Champions League winners ES Satif of Algeria in the CAF Confederations Cup, where they were runners-up in 2015.
And it's Songa! And it's goal number 2 for Justin Songa!
Watch them live this Wednesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as they launch their attack in the group stage.
On your true sports partner.
Welcome back. Glad you are still with us. Remember, you can talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Ever remains to be the official station handle. My handle is at Jane Wamboi.
And I can see Helen here on Twitter, Helen Jerry, saying, absolutely love this young lady. She's such an inspiration to so many other young girls out there. Mimi nikiwa class 7, usitake kujua priorities zangu zilikuwa nini. I completely feel you on that. I see Billy saying, kudos to Amal for doing such a great job at encouraging our young kids to follow their dreams from such a young age. Kenzie is asking, how can we get those books? So we'll be letting you know how you can get this particular one that is already, she's gone to market with. Yes, it's the only one that has been published that is out there. Yeah. Yes, and this is Deception, just trying to educate our young children when it comes to sexual relations. So for those of you who are just joining us, we have Amal Mohammed Abdikadir with us in studio, who is an author here in our Kenyan space. Now, before the break, we were looking at, issues to do with publishing, and especially for a new young author like you who just recently joined the industry. And I'd like to just, even for young viewers who are watching us this morning, to just paint a picture for them for what it is like for an actual writer looking at the publishing phase. And let's start with finances that are involved. How has your experience been like?
Okay, first of all, it is not that easy, especially if you are not independent.
Mm-hmm.
And
independent in what sense?
Financially.
Okay.
And for me, as I had told you, I had the support of my brothers. Mm-hmm. They got my back. And, before publishing the book, there are small amounts of money you need, like designing the cover, the editing. Editing takes a lot of money. And then there is the arrangement of the pages into smaller, this size. That's when we get to publishing. That's when you pay the printer. And I think between a printer and the one who is editing, the editor takes more money. Mm-hmm. That's when you need enough money, because that's when your book, most of the errors, that's when they are removed. But mine did not have a lot of errors because the late Professor Henry Olekulet had edited it for free of charge because he was mentoring me. So the launching also, if you are launching, you need some amount of money, not too much. If drinks and snacks are involved.
At the reception of or the first presentation of this book.
Yeah.
And looking at that point of launching, therein comes issues to do with publicity and marketing for the book to just get the word out. Is it something that you had challenges with in terms of getting the proper publicity for your book and the proper marketing? Because I believe that's a make or break part of this whole process.
Okay, my main challenge was the fact that I was launching my book in Nairobi, Isli, and I'm from Nakuru. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone in Nairobi, and I thought like people won't come. Like I will find myself and my family in the venue. Yes. But there is this the publicity I wanted for my book was awesome. It just came automatically because the people that were helping me, like Miski Haji, is a famous young girl, and she posted it and many people saw it and they come under her name. And then there is also Brother Dean, who also, he's an author. Yes. Many people know him. He was supporting me. He was to be there. And there are many people who came under his name also. So the publicity I wanted for my book, I got it. And I appreciate anyone who attended the launching event of my book.
All right. Now let's talk a bit about the distribution part of this whole process. You have gone through what could have been the hardest part, but now there is the distribution. I mean, you are launching the book here in Nairobi. You're based in Nakuru, and maybe somebody wants the book who's in Mombasa. Looking at effective and proper distribution channels, because looking at authors that have already made a name for themselves, they have their books on shelves across the country. How has it been for you in terms of distribution, getting your books to everyone who would like to get a copy as a young writer and author in this space?
Okay. My books are not yet in bookshops, but people who are interested are coming to my Instagram account, ordering from there, or there is also a number, phone number where they order from, and then I deliver it to them wherever they are. Like today, I'm sending some books to Mandera, Garissa, Mombasa, Migori, and Narok. So wherever you order from, you get your book. But with time, I'll have somewhere to place them in every county.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in terms of now when you get to that point where you have like a central point of distribution like you would like in every county, therein comes the issues to do with maybe language barrier, because somebody could be wanting your book, but language barrier could be what is hindering them from, even wanting to just get it. Is it something that you have thought of, and is it something you're looking to work towards, and especially looking at the translation from a personal point of view?
First of all, there are many people. Most of the people that attended my launching event were Somalis, and most of them were telling me, Amal, why are you not writing in Somali? And for me, I know myself, I can speak Somali, but I'm not good at writing. So I just told them, I'm even planning to have a version of Deception in Somali. So I don't know any other language.
So translation could be in the works, and especially starting from your cultural point of things.
Yeah.
All right. Now, there's somebody here who's on Twitter, Ameuliza. As far as I know, I have a friend who had such poor publishing services done. Maybe you could also encourage young writers to understand the importance of getting good publishing, in as much as it might cost you a lot of money.
Okay, it's very important for you to have a publisher. Like, the format of your pages might not be okay, but like for me, the person who published my book and the person who arranged the pages are different. The person who arranged the pages was from Nakuru. I did that in Nakuru, but the publisher is based in Nairobi. So the pages were not okay. There is satisfied in those the way the pages are supposed to be, and mine was not okay. But the publisher told me, Amal, this is how it's supposed to be. So go back to the person who did this work and tell him how it's supposed to look like. But if your publisher cannot advise you on that, then it's an X.
That's a problem to begin with, and especially if you're new in this writing field. Now comes in the aspect of protecting your work, both the intellectual ones that you haven't put out there and even this actual copy, because we are living in a time where piracy is real. You can be walking in the streets of Nairobi and you see your book there, and you know for sure it's not legitimately from you. In terms of protecting your work as a new writer in this marketing, in the public space, is it something you have already ventured into, or you are working towards making sure that your works are protected, registered, and you can keep track to avoid issues to do with piracy?
Okay, that's something by there I forgot to talk about.
And actually, angalia viewers wetu ukiwaambia here, especially those who are in the writing space.
You can give your book to someone, and you don't know what that person is going to do your book with. And the way she has said, you can be walking in town and you see your book. You have no other option. You will buy it or you leave it, but you don't have the right to claim it because you are the one who gave it out. So for me, I think for me to take that long publishing my book, it's because I was trying to protect my work, because many people were telling me, Amal, don't trust your work with anyone. Don't give your scripts to anyone. So I was afraid there's that fear. So I didn't used to give my work to anyone. And I trust one person, one lady, and that's Madam Purity Kavuri from the library. She keeps my work, and whenever I need, sometimes, I'm not good at handling my emails, so I send it to her email. She keeps it for me, so when I need them, she forwards them to me. So if you have one person that you can trust, then that's okay. But as long as you don't have that person, keep your work to yourself, not even the closest friend, because temptations are real.
Okay, and I think that is something that all authors need to do, because we're living in a time where most people also would want the soft copy version, and they can share it with anyone and everyone without going through the proper process of purchasing it from the actual author. So if you can protect your work, whether you have published it or not. If you have to send a soft copy, have measures in place that will ensure that piracy is not something that you are dealing with. As we close this conversation, maybe just your word of encouragement to all the other young ladies who are watching us this morning, even kids who are watching us and they have writing ambitions, but they have been doubting themselves about getting started.
Okay, my advice is this: whatever you do, there are some things that you should be prepared for, some things you should be ready for, like criticism and underestimation, doubts, and friends who are there to discourage you. If you are ready for that, you'll achieve whatever you want. But if you are not ready for that, then start getting ready right now so that you can achieve what you want.
There you have it, Amal Mohammed Abdikadir. She is an author, 4 books under her name, 3 are the ones that are public. You can be able to check them out. The first one that she has published is Deception. Get to read about it, get to understand. Let us start by supporting our young writers in our local space. Her other books are Shades of Hope as well as Born to Suffer. So if you come across any of this, be sure to read and give her feedback. Remind us your social media handles once more.
Instagram, Amal Abdikadir 2176. Facebook, Amal Mohammed Abdi, and Twitter, Amal Abdikadir 65.
All right, there you have it. So engage with her and let us support our local writers right here at home. In a bit, we'll be getting to have a conversation revolving around women in business. And in that particular conversation, Regina will be having the chair of women in business here in Kenya. There she is, Madam Mary Modhoni will be joining us in a bit. But before that, a quick look at how our roads are looking like. Doreen.
Good morning, you're still watching Good Morning Kenya. I'm Regina Manyara. Now we focus on women in business. Now gender and inequality still plagues us, but we must take the first step in this journey. Those are words of Jane Karuku, who is a group managing director at East African Breweries Limited. Now, introducing my guest is Mary Muthoni, who is the chairperson of the Women in Business, to just help us harness the potential of women in business. Good morning, madam, and thank you for your time. Now, we've already talked about, or rather seen the issues of gender equality in as far as women's representation in the economic value chain is concerned. From where you sit as the chair of Women in Business, what is our forum doing to ensure that we maximize the potential and leapfrog women's achievement in business? Well, this morning we're going to be talking to the chairperson of the Women in Business. This is none other than Madam Mary Muthoni there, just trying to understand what we can do to leapfrog women's achievements in the economic value chain. Just a few hours or the days after Kenya joined the rest of the world in marking the International Women's Day, women have come out strongly to say that it's the high time that we bridged the gender inequality, especially in the economic value chain. She will be helping us understand what the Women in Business organization is doing, or rather the role that it's playing to, enhance women's contribution in the economic value chain. I'd want to draw your attention as you try and get her radiant sound there to an article that has been written on page 15 of the Daily Nation on the opinion section. And I'd want to quote Michelle Kagiri, who says, women farmers are at the front line of learning and adopting to climate-smart farming techniques. However, outdated gender myths have ensured that women have less access to and control of land and fewer rights as well as opportunities as men. On the other hand, we have Elizabeth Ombati, who is a disability rights advocate and a member of the Kenya Network of Women with Disabilities, says there are women with disabilities who are top leaders, and her opinion is that women with disabilities should be given opportunities to take a lead. So do keep up with us as we talk about matters of economic empowerment, leadership and governance, and where women are. We're going to be focusing on women in business, lessons that we can learn from COVID-19 disruptions, where the investment opportunities are, and what the private sector is doing to harness women's maximum potential when it comes to women empowerment in the economic value chain. Also want to remind you some of the trending stories that we're going to be keenly focusing on is that what options are there for ODM leader there, Raila Odinga, in as far as, succession politics of 2022 are concerned. And now information that has reached the media is that Raila checked into Nairobi Hospital for a series of tests, and he had complained of fatigue after his grueling 5-day BBI Coast campaign trip. These are some of the stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. You can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Now, it's my understanding that our guest is ready, and this is none other than Mary Muthoni, who is the chair of the Women in Business. Good morning once again.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Okay. Now we're talking about, what we can do to ensure that we optimize women's potential when it comes to, matters of economy, the role that they play in economic growth. From where you sit as the chair of the Women in Business, what are you doing about it?
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to mention that Women in Business organization has a network of about 1.2 million women across the country. And therefore, we have a duty to ensure that these women are able to reach to the highest of their potential. And to your question, sometimes we just look at the policy matters, and sometimes policy takes long, maybe formulation, implementation. So we've moved from that point of just standing at one position and thinking that things are going to change. We have gone to ensure that the small things that are around and the few opportunities that are there for the women, we take advantage of them to the maximum. And as women in business, we have taken the lead in very many areas. We have been able to encourage partnerships with bigger companies and connecting them to smaller companies to ensure that they push them up. And one of the partnerships that we have been able to make and which is still running right now is with Bidco Africa, whereby we have been able to negotiate for women across the country who can plant bamboo, soya, and sunflower, and ensuring that the market is already ready. And also the women who are in poultry, women who are in dairy, women who are in general farming, they can be able to get products at subsidized prices and also resell them to the market. And again, we are encouraging women, apart from market linkages and so on, we are also encouraging women out of the lessons that we have learned during COVID. It is very important to look into areas or how they can be able to save a little money. Sometimes you may find you have 100 shillings today and you go on a spending spree, or 1,000 shillings. It is better that you save that little instead of thinking it is too small. So we have also partnered with companies like a County Pension Fund to train women and to ensure that they are able to save as little as they can for a longer period and for a rainy day. That is what can save most of our women. When we come back and when this a pandemic like COVID-19, we are not all taken down like what happened last year. We are still recovering from what really hit the world, and it is it's so sorry to say that most of us were not ready for this. Most of us were not prepared that our businesses could go down. I can give an example with myself, who runs a school. I had to close for more than 10 months, you know, and that was really detrimental to whatever that I may have wanted to do, the expansion that I may have wanted to do. And that does not mean it is just at the higher level or the mid level, the SME level. It also happened to the micro and small enterprises. When we had to be closed up and hold up in our houses, we couldn't go to the markets to ensure that we are buying our cabbages. Then the mama mboga really suffered. The person who sells to us clothes really suffered, because we did not even want to have contact with them. So it is very proper to say that saving is one of the areas that we have to teach ourselves as women to ensure we keep expanding. Again, capacity building programs, which we have rolled out across the country to ensure that women understand opportunities are right at their doorstep. And I keep saying that the government of Kenya today has opened up doors by ensuring that women, youth, and persons with disabilities have been supported in many ways using different fundings, UESO, Women Enterprise Fund, the Youth Fund, and many other funds that if people are organized, then they are able to access these opportunities. However, there has been a challenge when you realize that most of these groups do not have the collateral, or they do not have the the prerequisite documentation to allow them to even access the simplest of the loans. And when you talk about women in business, when I ask you who you are, you're supposed to identify yourself with your business. If you ask me who I am in business, I'll tell you St. Petro Premier School. If I ask you, then give me the name of your company. Give me the name of your business name. And if you're not able to do that, then the first thing that you should do is to be compliant. That is the first step to becoming a great businesswoman. And
Indeed. Now, Madam Muthoni, let me cut you short on that.
Yes.
And thank you for giving us the overview of what WIB has been doing to ensure that we harness the women's full maximum potential that women have in the economic value chain. And I hear you're talking about challenges, the issue of lack of collateral, issues of credit access and such. From where you sit with your the Women in Business organization, are you in a position to give us the true picture in as far as the status report on women in business in the year between, since Kenya confirmed its first case of COVID amid the COVID-19 disruptions, now that we are almost marking a year? Tell us, how have the businesses run by women performed, the ones that have closed? Give us the statistics.
We may not have the statistics per se as of now, but I can tell you for a fact over 70% of female businesses went down in the year 2019. We may not have the exact figures. Maybe if you invite me next, I could take you down the road on what are the figures and how it has been, it has affected the many women and what are the levels of what has been affected. But across the board, from the micro and small enterprises to the top corporate, every other business has been affected.
Now, borrowing from that, with what we've seen with COVID-19 disruptions therein, what are your expectations ahead of, the president's address to the nation that is scheduled towards the end of this week, from a business point of view?
I think we are very expectant that the president will give a favorable view on what is happening on the ground, and of course see more openings from the government where people can have tappings, especially on access to finance, access to markets, and of course access to the correct network that is required for every woman to thrive. And of course opening up the counties, because again, for those who have gone down and they were doing imports and exports, it would be important to venture into other markets that are within the country, and that will encourage the inter and intra-county trading activities that would enhance even devolution.
Now, talking about market access, you've said you're very expectant over, that particular presidential address. Now, let's focus on market access. The AFTA came into effect in January as women entrepreneurs under the Women in Business umbrella. What other markets are you looking to expand into in this regard?
Of course, we have seen the African market opening up. So we would be looking up into expanding the businesses into the EAC and the Africa in general. Internationally, Kenya still has a very great and open market out there. If you look at the market of the UK, and I know there's a discussion in Parliament around this, you will find that sectors like tea, flowers, coffee is so much, and that is where probably we can also plug in terms of ensuring that we are in other sectors, expanding our businesses from the small cocoons that we are in. And I will always say that you do not have to own a tea farm for you to become to join the value chain. You could join into the packaging, the marketing of the tea, and of course the finding of the market across the world and across the globe. So there are very many other opportunities that we can venture into in the year 2021 to simply ensure that we are not locked into small ideas, and we can figure out in other sectors that are really working out there.
Now, Madam Mary, there is one of our viewers who seems to have taken a liking to a comment that you made, that women need to normalize introducing themselves with what they do. If you own a business, say, I'm Regina Manyara, a media practitioner, such and such. So they say, as women, we need to normalize business showers like we have baby showers, and support other women starting businesses. What's your take in regard to this feedback that we've gotten this morning?
Absolutely, that's a very credible opportunity for you to market yourself, just like a baby shower. But as we normalize our businesses, we also need to ensure that we have formalized the businesses. Because for you to have a baby shower, the baby has a name. So can we also have a name to your business? Probably that would be a bigger baby shower and a better one. So formalization of businesses is very important at this juncture. And marketing and visibility of women businesses is very important at this juncture. We have very many women who are running small and medium enterprises from their houses, but at the end of the day, you don't find them, and they're doing incredible things. You know, small industries in their houses. So we need to really ensure that that is blossomed out and goes out there for them to even get probably tenders from the government through the 30% procurement rule, or even from corporate institutions that are out here.
Let's formalize our business. That's what Madam Mary Muthoni, who is the chair of the Women in Business, is saying to regard to that feedback that we've received here in studio. Remember, we are live and welcome your feedback. My Twitter handle is at our official one, that is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. We have a Dorina Range and a Jane Wamboy. Now, Madam Mary Muthoni, tell us, is Women in Business open to any woman, or do you have specificities into one to join the Women in Business organization?
Women in Business is open mostly to those women who are already doing business. However, we have capacity building programs to help women who are in employment transition from formal employment to entrepreneurship. Because sometimes women just quit from their jobs because they are tired and they want to do something new. However, you can come out here, you have the money, you have the idea, but you're unable to implement that idea. So we help such kind of women, the startups, to ensure that the transition is really seamless and they are able to catch up with the rest of the women. And we also encourage the women from the MSME level to move to the SME level, and from SME level to the corporates, because what we want to see the women doing is growth. That every other year you have moved one step, you have moved at least a mile that you can count on. And for a woman to join Women in Business, you just need to simply send the word register to 23406.
23406 to register and Women in Business. Now, allow me, Madam, today we're talking about women at the forefront and looking at their achievements during their lifetime. You've said that other than just being, the chair of Women in Business, you also run your own school. Tell us, what was your inspiration?
Sorry?
Tell us your inspiration in starting your school. You know, where did your journey begin?
Wow. I think I am, first and foremost, I'm an educationist. So I had taught for 10 years. I taught Moi High School, Mirori, in Embu, and I taught Moi Girls School in Nairobi. And after my 10 years, I really felt that there is something that is really missing in the children that we admit in the Form 1 section. Because sometimes you find children girls and boys who had passed their KCP really highly. And when they come to school, they are unable to transition. And they start getting lower grades and all that. And I realized character and attitude is one of the key things that is really affecting these children. I wanted to create a model school, which I have. I wanted to create a school that is going to be an example of a child that I would want to teach English, history in Form 1. And again, my inspiration came from knowing that a woman can do even better. If you want something done, tell a woman. So I really needed to show the young girls out there that you have an idea, please go for it. Please make sure it happens. Do not, and I can tell you for a fact, after I quit my job, it was not very easy to walk in these streets of Nairobi, and every other time you're waiting for a salary and it's not coming. You know, when you're a startup, sometimes you have to go through those challenges. At the end of the month, there are bills to pay, there are things that you need to do for yourself, and you're not able to do them because you don't have a salary and you've just started a business. So those challenges are there, and people will also mock you and tell you, why do you think you can do it? You can't do it without the support of so-and-so, without the support of another person. Get information where it is. You can find it. And that is why I also joined the Women in Business organization, founded the Women in Business organization. We work closely with other organizations like the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and you can see some of the things that are happening at the Kenya Private Sector Alliance with the MasterCard Foundation, COVID recovery for the women, and financing them as low as 30,000 shillings, you see. So where you cannot reach, you go to other people and you can be able to pull strings together for the better of the woman of this country.
Indeed, very well said. When you want something done, ask a woman to do it. So what should we expect from Mary Muthoni in as far as, you know, your vision for where you want to be as an entrepreneur in the next 10 years?
On a personal level, I want to ensure that I have expanded globally. Already in my business, I am in the EST because we tap into our students from Tanzania, from Uganda, a few of them who their parents are abroad. But we would want to physically be there and be the very, give the best education and the best model school in the EAC and globally. And of course, for the women in business, we want to ensure by the end of the 5 years that we have 10 million women who are formally registered, who have formally registered their businesses and are running businesses correctly in Kenya. Right now, we are just starting. We just have 1.2 million members, but in 5 in Kenya.
We are speaking to the chairperson of Women in Business and founder there, Madam Mary Muthoni, who's also an entrepreneur within the education value chain there, saying that Despite the challenges, lack of collateral, access to credit and such, women have remained resilient in the past year amid the COVID-19 disruptions. She has also further gone on to share how if you're watching and you're interested to join the organization, how you can get information. And what you're talking about is a women in business organization. You can get their website there. Then also advice to those entrepreneurs who are seeking, collateral and credit. The advice or the take home from our guest, Mary Muthoni, is first formalize the business and normalize talking about it so that you can grow your network. We have you back online, Madam, you were saying?
Yes, and I was also saying some of the areas that we have been able to expand for the women. It's creating online marketplaces where they can sell their wares, and if they are able to Google www.wibkenya.com, they would be able to see the marketplace that is coming up to ensure that they are able to expand on their network. If you're in Kakamega, you can be able to sell your clothes in to somebody in Nairobi, someone in Meru, and anywhere in the country and in the world. And of course, we are also encouraging payments integration with companies like iPay to ensure that you have a one-stop shop for integrated payments. If you're a person who does not carry cash, then you can be able to use your credit card, your debit card. You can be able to also use M-Pesa, money transfer, or even wallets that are able to buy you product online and anywhere in the world.
Now, during the celebrations to mark the International Women's Day, what came out is that issues of gender inequality are still very rife in as far as women are concerned, and now looking at the economy. From where you sit, private sector and women in business, how then do you think, what recommendations would you give to tackle this issue?
I've lost you.
Talking about gender inequality within the value chain in as far as women are concerned, how would we best address this issue? We're in the 21st century, so gender shouldn't be an issue, but situation on ground shows that, women are falling short because of this gender inequality.
To say the least, one of the key things that must be done is implementation of policies, because we do have almost enough policies that are able to propel us to greater heights. But as I usually say, our current constitution right now is entrenched in our culture, or our culture is actually entrenched in the current constitution. And why do I say this? Because one of your most powerful leader today is called the MCA, the Member of County Assembly. And if you go to communities whereby they do not value women, and you find they are only men who have been elected, do you expect them to propel women and gender equality issues? Of course not. So we would also encourage women to come out in large numbers, vie for positions of legislation to ensure that they are able to fight for their space on the table, other than just making noise out here. It would be very important that we have more female MCAs, we have more female women leaders, and of course in corporates that we are observing the 2/3 gender rule to ensure that there is that femininity. And when we talk gender, I am not propelling for the women because it's a woman thing. I'm speaking like that because in Kenya today, the woman is the one who is still lagging behind in very many things. And if you look at gender issues, really, a woman suffers more. It is a woman every month who will need a pad. So she is disrupted from school. And if you look at statistics of how school-going children, we start almost at the same level at the nursery school. But as we move up to the university, to the high school, you'll find that the figures keep dwindling here and there. And even at the university level, the majority of the dropouts would be girls because of pregnancy issues, which men don't go through. And you know, that is a natural thing which we may not prevent. If we may compare maybe a young man taking drugs in the university, that's an issue of capacity. It's an issue of counseling. It's an issue of, it's not natural. It's something that you can avoid. But giving birth, it's so natural. So the issues that affect young girls, affect women, are quite heavy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We've been talking to the chairperson of the Women in Business, that is Mary Muthoni there. Let's make those policies actual. Let's actualize those policies that are very good on paper. I'm Regina Manyara. You've been watching Good Morning Kenya.
Yes.
Broadcast television has evolved over the years, and so has the modes of transmission. Many a times, we do sit on our couches at home and watch a file footage of a past recorded event and become amazed at the quality of video compared to the current standards that we see on our television sets. This means that as times go by, television signals will continue to change, as well as video quality. Over the years, signal interruption and bad sound quality due to reduced signal strength, which can cause a digital signal to break up or analog signal to have speckles, was the norm. The problem also extended all the way up to satellite signals. Even though the weather doesn't affect television reception as badly as in the analog days, it can be affected by severe weather conditions such as storms and high winds. This meant that viewers had trouble enjoying watching their favorite TV programs due to the effects of bad weather. In radio, the older AM radios were highly sensitive to weather phenomenon such as lightning. FM radios, and now DAB, are less susceptible to these weather phenomenons. The frequencies for TV and satellite are not affected by the bolts as well. With this in mind, the national broadcaster KBC resolved to upgrade the Limuru Transmission Center to give TV viewers and radio listeners a digital experience that meets the international broadcast standards. The migration to digital television broadcasting in 2009 came at a cost, rendering older TV sets obsolete. It also required owners of non-digital color TV sets to acquire special converter boxes or set-top boxes to remain relevant. Currently, TV sets are coming with inbuilt digital TV receivers.
Digital. Where are you when the country's going digital? Digital.
President Mwai Kibaki commissioned the microwave link from Nairobi to Limuru for onward transmission. Over that period from 2009, broadcasting has grown following the migration process that has seen television stations broadcast their signals in a digital format. The subsector has realized and surpassed development levels as witnessed in the telecommunications segment of the ICT sector. With this in mind, KBC is currently undertaking an upgrade exercise to increase the quality of the signals as well as the spectrum to accommodate more TV stations on the digital platform. Four new transmitters have been put in place and can carry over 400 channels for both TV and radio at once. The new system is based on the latest telecommunication technology. Each transmitter has a signal processing system which can handle 100 TV channels where they are processed, and the signal is taken to the transmitter for the viewers to watch TV at home.
So on this platform, we expect to have most of the clients, content providers who are interested in doing local insertion in Nairobi region. Some of those clients, like an example, I would call Mount Kenya TV, who have been interested in coming to Nairobi, the Meru region, and some few other transmitting stations. Currently, we cannot be able to offer them their requirement, and because we are only doing national platform and we have no actual capacity to do the local insertion in other areas, so they are forced to go on our national platform, the whole region, the whole national platform, while they prefer to be regionalized. Another one is an example. Another one would be Data TV, who have been pressurizing us on when the projects will be completed, because they will prefer to be in Nakuru, Nairobi, and most at Murang'a and Nyeri. This one will serve them good because we will be able to separate them from the national platform.
The other aim of the project is to improve the quality of the signal, upgrade the capacity of channels being carried, and thirdly, reduce redundancy by offering clients the chance to choose which platforms they want to join.
The aim of this project is to improve on the quality of broadcast in Nairobi, especially in Nairobi, which is the center of our broadcasting as Signet. It has high demand, and viewers expect us to have quality of production and quality of broadcast. Most of our clients have been willing to come on our platform, but sometimes we find our capacity a bit competitive, so we have come up with an idea of upgrading and improving on the quality of the broadcast Signet. And this is the purpose of this project. One, to upgrade the platform, the modern technology. Second one is to improve the quality of production of broadcast. And the third one is a form of just redundancy and giving our customers a bit of options to choose from. Nairobi, after this project, we can promise that Nairobi, Signet in Nairobi will have improved, especially bandwidth capacity, because we have improved with 4 frequencies. Currently, we have 4 new frequencies, and we have our previous 3 frequencies. We have been having options to choose from when we are doing coverage in Nairobi.
KBC is also in the process of configuring to HD channels for both KBC and Y25 channels. KBC 4 signals, hence Signet signal will improve in Nairobi, especially in terms of the bandwidth capacity. This means that a person in Nakuru will be able to bring their signal to the transmission station in Nakuru, enabling it to go on air in the Nakuru region. Hence, this will be more cost effective and allow them to reach the intended audience. Some small stations who prefer to air in certain regions have been previously forced to join the national signal platform because there was no regionalized signal platform. The Limuru Transmission Center caters for the Signet platform and also the radio services platform for a digital experience like no other.
This is the Limuru transmitting station. Limuru is one of the main stations of KBC, which scatters for Nairobi and surrounding areas. And Limuru takes care of a TV station, that is Signet platform, and also radio services for the KBC. We have 2 streams for Signet channel. We have the main one, which is the national channel, which goes everywhere in the country, and then we have the local one for Nairobians. And each channel takes about 24 TV stations. So in total, we have about 24 stations, 48 stations running from Limuru. Currently, we have a new project taking place in Limuru. We have installation of the antenna to the new transmitter, and we have a bunch of new 4 transmitters which are being installed. On my background is the combiner of the new system, and when the 4 new transmitters goes on air, we'll be able to transmit a maximum of about 96 channels. Currently, the new system, we have the power system, we have the isolation transformer, we have the AVR, and then we have the UPS, which is the backup of the whole system.
The aerial panels were then installed at the top of the mast at a height of between 120 to 129 meters. Aviation requirements rules require the color of the panels to be orange or red and should be accompanied with white panels to enable airplanes clear sight when aeroplanes are flying to avoid crashing on them. Our staff at KBC went through training to familiarize themselves with the new transmission softwares for ease of transmission and execution. We as the national broadcaster continue to adapt to the times. We will ensure that we provide you with the best signal quality for a digital experience like no other.
Next on
Kama nitaka kujua kabisa ile ujuzi gani ambao labda wewe umeweza kusomea ama umebobea nao.
Kazi mwanangu aliyosomea.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I say my head level.
On the next episode.
Miradi ya utoaji maji safi kote nchini ni muhimu katika kuimarisha maisha na mapato ya Wakenya. Mradi wa bwawa la Thwake ni mojawapo ya miradi iliyoanzishwa chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kwa manufaa ya wananchi. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
hiyo maji mahali tunapata kwa kwenda hiyo kilomita, saa ingine tunakutana na hii mnyama inakaa kwa maji, crocodile.
Katika project ya Thwake tunazo tunnel mbili. Wakati ujenzi tunnel hizi zitatumika kubadilisha mkondo wa mto.
Hiyo stima itasaidia kwa sababu kama stima itatoka hapa kwa wingi, hakuna mahali patakuwa hapana stima.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Kwa mimi nitakujua kabisa ile ujuzi gani ambao labda wewe umeweza kusomea ama umebobea nao.
Kazi mwanangu aliyosomea ni the Dobby and the Beautiful.
Huo ni ujuzi gani lakini baba huo?
Uswafi na Dobby.
Oh, the Dobby and the Beautiful.
Na walifanya wote wawili.
Huyu sasa wafukuza wafanyikazi wote. Sawa, hawawezi kupata halali kwa sababu watu wa majanga.
Huwa haraka.
Na suruali hamuitaki.
Baba usifue. Baba usifue baba. Usifue. Suruali ni
toka.
Wazungu sema it's okay.
Orlando Pirates of South are not taking any chances when they travel to two-time CAF Champions League winners ES Satif of Algeria in the CAF Confederations Cup, where they were runners-up in 2015.
And it's Songa! And it's goal number 2 for Justin Songa!
Watch them live this Wednesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as they launch their attack in the group stage.
On your true sports partner.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.